I found the meaning of life, and we'll get to that in a second. But the thing that was interesting was how much it applies to business. I've been using OpenAI's o1 Pro reasoning AI model, and it does a surprisingly good job of giving really well thought out answers. So I asked it, what's the meaning of life, just to see what it comes up with. This was its reply. The meaning of life is discovering and aligning your unique strengths and values with a concrete problem worth solving, then consistently acting on it to create genuine, measurable improvement in others' lives. That's actually a surprisingly good answer, and I need to spend some personal time really contemplating that. But also, it strikingly resembles the advice I typically give to CEOs regarding their business and their marketing and their positioning. I've never made that connection before, but in retrospect, it totally makes sense. Companies come to me when they realize that they're basically commoditized. They're just one of a whole bunch of companies out there, all basically doing the same thing and talking about it in the same way. Their customers can't really tell them apart from anyone else. They don't know what they're about. They don't know how to talk about themselves. They don't really know who they're targeting. They struggle to even explain to their own staff what makes them different. And that has a huge effect on their marketing. The majority of companies out there are working way harder than they should have to and accomplishing way less than they deserve to because their positioning is a mess. They're just kind of treading water, which is a lot like having a personal identity crisis. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you come home, you watch TV, you go to bed, but why? What are you doing on this earth? What is your purpose for being here? What's the point? The first step to doing this is to uncover your unique strengths and values. I usually do this by conducting an extended discovery interview with the client, either just with the CEO or with an extended group of stakeholders. And I talk with them for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours about every aspect of their business. It's not about marketing, it's about everything. And it's not just to get the specific answers to my direct questions. It's really about how they answer those questions. A lot of the questions are intentionally thought-provoking or even confronting because I want to see how they react in the moment. The way that they respond, not necessarily the words that they say, tells me a lot about their business and what's important to them. And it gives me a lot of insights about their business that they might not be able to put into words themselves. Based on that, I'm able to get a pretty good picture of their unique strengths and values as a business. The next step is to align those strengths and values with a concrete problem worth solving, something that makes a genuine, measurable impact on people's lives. That doesn't have to be a touchy-feely frou-frou concept. It can be very nuts and bolts or practical, but there's a reason people are buying your stuff. There's some improvement that you make in their lives. You got to figure out what it is. It's not about what you sell. It's about how you're making your customers' lives better. What does a CPA firm sell? Accounting? Nope. A business comes to you either because they're in over their head on their accounting or because they want to free up their time to do more for their customers. You're making their lives better. That's what they're buying. What does a recruiting firm sell? Recruiting services? Nope. Companies come to you when they're getting behind on their work, they're not delivering on their promises, there's a giant unmet need in their business, and they're struggling. They need help. You can make their lives better. That's what they're buying. So to separate yourself from everyone else in the market, you need to really understand who you're selling to and what's really important to them and how that aligns with your strengths and values. When all those things come together, that's when you create a really powerful, differentiated business that stands out in the market and makes a difference for customers. That's what you want. That's the shortcut to business success. You can go the long way, and most people do, but that doesn't make that the right way. If you want to get there fast, be super clear and super differentiated. And the final piece of that puzzle is consistently acting on it. A pretty universal tendency in business, which you've probably experienced yourself, is that companies go through a big positioning, rebranding, culture exercise, and then 2 weeks later, they're back to doing exactly what they were doing before. None of that stuff matters unless you operationalize it. So a big part of what I do is give companies a framework to turn all that theory into reality on an ongoing basis in a way that sticks. I basically draw a line between the old company and the new company and make it very clear the difference between the two so that everyone can spot and call out when they're acting in the old company way. And I work with them to build the new stuff into their tools and processes so that it's an inevitable part of their business. That's where the real change comes from. It's turning the theory into actual workflows and processes and habits that make it real day after day. So that's the meaning of life and business. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, leave a comment and let me know what you think.